The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.
All right, Bert Kreischer tickets coming up here in just about 60 seconds. It's Brian and Kenzie on Q101. Thanks to Kenzie's mom for calling up and giving us the real story of the seance that Kenzie described earlier in the show. If you missed it, just go to the podcast, Q101.com, anywhere you get your podcasts, anywhere. Just make sure you check it out there. And it brought up a point. That was a great story she told about telling the grandkids that pumpkins get up in the middle of the night and walk to other people's porches.
Yep, they walk around.
And she even had the retort that said that's not true. She goes, "Oh, you ever see a pumpkin smashed in the road? That's because they're too slow."
That's the thing about my mom's storytelling is that she has like little things that make your mind go, "Oh wait," and then
she's got an answer for everything in the story.
Yes,
that's not cool.
And it's horrible because you can't as a child even debunk your fear.
Yeah, the kid had an honest question. That's not true. There's no way they could do that.
She never circles back and tells you. So these kids are going to be like 10, and everyone's going to laugh at them in school because they're like, "Well, pumpkins move in the middle of the night."
Yeah.
That's what happened to me all the time.
You know what smashing pumpkins are, right? They're pumpkins that move too slow and got hit by a car.
No, that's what the band based their name off of.
So Brittany's checking in. We're talking about maybe lies your parents told you. Brittany, ahoy.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I love you guys.
Oh, thanks.
Show.
We love you too. What'd your mom tell you?
So my mom, when we were younger, when my younger brother and sister weren't behaving, she would tell them that the brown UPS truck, when it would come through the neighborhood, that it was there to collect all the kids that were being bad and take them away.
Oh, that's so
we're,
good.
For any UPS truck still as an adult.
Oh my God.
You still get triggered when you see what can Brown do for you when the truck's coming down the street?
Oh my gosh. She would, the other thing she would do is she would use the old paint app that would be on the computers when they were brand new.
Yeah.
So she would open that up and she would copy and paste their school picture on there, and she would write child for sale for
Oh my God! I think your mom and Kenzie's mom should hang out.
I know.
They have a good time. Have a good time, right?
The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.
Well, it's time for Head to Headlines, and this is when you pick the content of the show we'll talk about coming up in a few minutes based on your text of headlines that we read. So we only read the headlines, and then you text in headline number 1 or headline number 2 at 312-591-8300. So let's get to headline number 1, which, by the way, relates to our conversation yesterday around this time a little bit.
Yes.
Remember, we talked about the 104-year-old woman that skydived in Chicago, set a record, and then she passed away, sadly, a week later.
Yes, I do.
Talked about things you want to do before you die, and you talked about seeing the 7 wonders of the world, and I talked about I want to wrestle a deer to the death in the woods with no weapons.
No, I recall. No, I do. Great.
Well, this
Great
headline,
day.
This
Great
headline,
show.
this headline, you threatened to quit when I said that?
Yeah, no, I remember.
This comes from Case, this headline here. And headline number 1, if you want to hear more about this story. Please don't paint pet on wild deer, Missouri officials warn. You want to hear more about that story? I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, just in the very little they give you.
Okay.
Please don't paint pet on wild deer, Missouri officials.
Isn't it annoying when you have to say things you thought you weren't going to have to say? It's just always all right. My son, I'm like, yep, please don't put your hand on hot stove. Son of a nutcracker, Tristan.
So that's headline number 1. If you want to hear more about that story, text headline 1 in right now. Headline number 2, Indiana woman steals car from dealership to drive to exotic dancer interview.
Well, that is tenacious, isn't it?
No one wants to work anymore. She wants to work.
She wants to work. I mean, she really wants to work. That's headline number 2. So if you want to hear more about that story, text in right now, headline number 2. Now, whatever story we read, we're never talking about the other story again. So choose wisely in what you want us here to talk about and learn more about yourself. So headline number 1, headline number 2, text them in right now with Brian and Kenzie on Q101. Head to headlines.
The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.
The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.
All right, head to headlines with Brian and Kenzie on Q101. We basically give you 2 headlines, and based on the headline alone, we read the story that you want to hear, and we never talk about the other story again. So, The headlines were, a couple choices. Case brought in one. Please don't paint pet on wild deer, Missouri officials say. That is headline number one. I know Case really brought that one to the table, wanted to hear more about that story.
Well, I really just want to hear more about your fantasies of wrestling deer, because the more we got into it yesterday, the more it seemed really sick and demented.
Well, it's something that I feel like I have to do before I die. And if I'm going to eat venison chili, I might as well earn it.
You don't want to earn anything else in your life. What are you going to I'm just asking. You don't. You've never told me you wanted to earn anything.
Brian wants the fast pass for life.
Oh,
I know. What are you
sounds
talking
so
about?
good. And headline number two. Headline number two is Indiana woman steals car from dealership to drive to exotic dancer interview. I brought that story to the table,
I
of
think
course.
she sounds like an inspiration. That was my
Blue collar worker.
Yeah.
I will say there was, about 370 votes there in the middle of that Glass Animal song, so it was very close. But more of you want to hear, by a slight margin, I'd say by like 32 votes, want to hear about the Indiana woman who stole a car from the dealership to drive to the exotic dancer interview. Case, I'm sorry, your story is not going to get heard ever.
That's okay. I love exotic dancers. Go ahead. I'd like to hear more about this.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Headline number two. Here we go. Police claim an Indiana woman didn't think it was a big deal when she stole a Kia from a car dealership in order to drive to Indianapolis for a job interview to be an exotic dancer. Now, according to court documents, 20-year-old Keisha Shelton of Muncie, Indiana, quote, acted like this whole thing was a joke and, quote, did not understand why she was being arrested after police tracked her down and questioned her about a stolen car. Police learned of the theft after an employee at the Muncie car dealership called to report a 2013 Kia Optima stolen from the lot. So let's let that sink in for a second. A 10-year-old car, pre-owned. She didn't go for a new one. She was maybe carrying in that point,
Yeah, I don't think she was doing anything. First off, she had clear intentions to borrow. Clear intentions to borrow.
Once she makes money at the strip club, she'd return the car and buy a new
I think
one.
she just wanted to make it to the interview. So drop this right back off. People are way too offended by borrowing things. Like, they're like, the world's getting destroyed. There's too many products. Well, if she would have been able to buy the car,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, she just borrows it, drops it back off. Now you're not doing two cars. Hello. Very eco-friendly.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, Case. You said she can pay for it. Now she has to interview. She might get turned down. For the exotic dancer interview. We don't know if she's going to get the job.
I don't know. If she's from Muncie, Indiana, I'm sure she's qualified enough to work in an exotic dancer club.
Why does Muncie give you that kind of energy?
For those familiar with Muncie, Indiana, it's not exactly Beverly Hills. I could see that being a great pipeline in the same way that, like, Florida produces a lot of great football players.
Yeah.
Muncie, Indiana probably produces a lot of great exotic dancers.
Oh, didn't know that.
Kind of a compliment.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not an insult. It's definitely not an insult.
I'll tell you what, that's not an insult. I've been called a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I may have called you a hoe by accident. I don't know on the show before.
You have.
But not by accident, intentionally. You looked in her eyes and said it.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You spit on me. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Also, Kenzie, can you do this for me?
What?
Let's see what the price of a 2013 Kia Optima is going for
All right,
these
I'll
days.
look it up.
While I continue with the story. The employee told officers that Shelton came into the dealership and asked to look at a 2013 Kia Optima. The employee had been preparing the car for a test drive, but said the phone kept ringing, though he said no one was ever on the other end of the line when he answered. The employee reportedly told Shelton to wait a moment while he answered the phone ringing, but Shelton allegedly drove off with the Kia. So apparently she was calling the phone to keep him busy so she could then get in the car and drive away with it.
What I'm hearing is she's smarter than the average person. This is a genius plan.
Honestly, I just have more respect for her. Now they do range in price because
Sure.
you could get a souped up Kia, obviously.
let's-
But I just found one available for $8,000. Well, $8,077. Sorry.
Is it on Craigslist or is it from a dealership?
That one was on Kelly Blue Book.
Oh, okay.
And then Edmunds is selling one right. So
Well, both those websites give basically estimates of what you could sell your car for.
this is odd.
So
So,
Kelly
the
Blue
Kia,
Book.
Kia Optima value, ready? Average, $3,944. Rough condition,
Ooh.
$3,566. Not a big discount for rough condition.
No. I mean,
It's like if you spend $20 more, you can have a nice one, which is kind of odd.
all she has to do is find that really lonely guy at the exotic club and get a couple more lap dances, just talk to him, say I'm going to
Honestly,
law
what
school.
she needs to do is get like a job in Atlanta because they bag and tag like a Kia Optima nightly at some of those clubs.
In case you know what bag and tag means in the strip club?
I don't actually.
I think it means collect cash like rain, right? It just comes down.
Bag and tag, baby.
I don't know, Brian. You're the resident strip club expert here. You tell us.
I haven't been to a strip club in about
Months.
I've been in a week.
I was gonna
Van.
I was going to say 8 years or so from a bachelor party. Okay, it keeps going here. So she stole the 2013 Kia when the guy at the Kia dealership wasn't looking. They connected her to the car because she reportedly filled out a form on the dealership's website to buy another vehicle prior to stealing the Kia. So they had all her information. She had good intentions to buy a car someday and couldn't, so now she's, going to do exotic dancing and then buy a car. They went to her home where she initially lied to officers about her identity. And then court documents revealed Shelton admitted to stealing the car after police informed her they knew who she was and what she'd done. She caved in pretty quick.
It's a hard argument when you're in the car. You know what I mean?
It's in your driveway.
It's a tough one.
You're in the stolen car. Oh, my God. Now, Shelton reportedly, this is Shelton, the car thief, exotic dancer. She told police she stole the Kia to drive to Indianapolis for an exotic dancer job interview. She didn't understand what the big deal was since she says she returned the vehicle later, so it wasn't in her possession when they came to her.
I told you she was borrowing it. That's textbook borrow.
But here's what she did. Here's the problem.
What?
She returned the vehicle by dropping it off at the parking lot of the mall next to the dealership. And then left the keys in the Kia.
Have you ever tried to get out of a mall parking lot? It is a nightmare.
And that specific mall is the Mounds Mall in Muncie, and it's an awful parking lot. I empathize with this woman.
There's just, it's all one way. It's, oh my God, she probably just gave up. I get it.
You've been to that mall?
I used to work at that mall. I did shifts at that mall.
Is that where you worked at Lids?
No, I worked at a store like Lids called Squeeze Play. It was my first job.
It sounds like you worked at the strip club.
The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.
The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101 and sending love out to Tom Skilling from WGN. After 45 years giving you the weather on there, he's announced he's going to retire.
Crazy.
It's not going to be till next year, February 28th, 2024. So you get
It's like announcing his farewell tour.
it's kind of like Sum 41 where they did that. And then they said, we're going to make a record anyway and keep going.
Yep.
I think he'll do that. I think he'll pull the, you know what? It's got to be so hard because
It'll be like Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not leaving.
we ain't leaving. But he announced that incredible thing to be at one place, 45 years. I don't know if that happens to anybody anymore where you're at one job, one place.
I don't think I've been in one place for 3 years. Seriously.
I'm coming up on 5 here, but then I was here also 6.5 before my first run as Sludge. So I have like 11.5, maybe almost 12 here at Q101.
But consecutive is difficult. You can't, it doesn't count.
I got exiled. I had to get out of town. Yeah, I got fired. That's what that's called.
Yeah, it's called getting fired.
It's called fired.
It's called doing a bad job.
No, I was doing a great job. Station did a bad job at the end.
It's always the station. Blame the station.
It's always somebody else. Hey, listen, I am proof that you can come home again. If people think something happens rough and you lose a job you love and you can come back. And I did. It's pretty cool. I'm proof. And if I can do it, you can do it. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do it. Tom Skilling, 45 years at WGN. And it's just kind of like that thing where, like the weather, people always make the joke that the weather people can be like wrong half the time. He was like right a lot of times. You know what I mean?
We got to work there. We got pretty good at it.
I guess I'd say they rate you each year and go, yeah, you were pretty right this year. You got one more year. I don't know. But it's always a comforting sign to see him. So we wish him the best. Tom Skilling, like we said, it'll be not till next year, but you can make sure you still see him on WGN. We love our people over there.
The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.